Level 1. The Altar Boy. You are 9 years old, and it is 6:15 in the morning, and you are the only child awake on your street. Your mother ironed your white robe the night before and hung it on the back of your bedroom door like it was something important. You put it on in the dark because you didn't want to wake her. The church is 3 blocks away. You walk it alone. Inside, it smells like candle wax and old wood and something you can't name but will spend the rest of your life trying to find again. There are 11 people in the pews, a few old women, a man in a coat who might be asleep, your grandmother in the 3rd row who smiles at you like you hung the moon. You carry the book. You ring the bell. You move when you're supposed to move and kneel when you're supposed to kneel. Father Doyle doesn't remember your name. He calls you son, which is what he calls everyone. You don't mind. There is something happening here that you can feel but not explain. Something serious. Something that chose you, or that you chose, and you are too young to know the difference. After Mass, Father Doyle shakes your hand and gives you a holy card with St. Michael on it. You put it in your jacket pocket. You walk home. Your street is waking up now. You can smell someone making coffee. A dog barks somewhere. You are 9 years old, and you already know, in the way that children know things before they have words for them, that you are going to give your life to this. You just don't know yet what that means. Level 2. The Seminarian. You are 22, and you have told your girlfriend it's over, told your parents you won't be taking the accounting job, and packed everything you own into 2 bags. One of the bags is mostly books. The seminary is outside the city. It has a chapel that seats 300 and a dining hall that smells like institutional soup and a rule that says lights out at 10. You haven't had a lights out since you were 12. You lie in the dark and stare at the ceiling and wonder if you made a mistake. You didn't make a mistake. But nobody warns you about the doubt. They warn you about celibacy. They warn you about obedience. They do not warn you that the hardest thing about becoming a priest is the silence. Not the spiritual silence, the actual silence. 4 years of learning to become comfortable with the sound of your own thoughts, which turn out to be louder than you expected. You study philosophy. You study theology. You study a dead language to read documents written by men who have been dead for 1,000 years. You write a paper on the nature of grace, and your professor writes in the margin, promising but too certain. You are not sure what that means. You think about it for 6 months. In your 3rd year, you have a crisis. Not a dramatic one, just a Tuesday in November where you sit in the chapel at 2 in the afternoon and feel absolutely nothing, and wonder if the whole thing is a story you've been telling yourself since you were 9 years old, holding a holy card with a saint on it. You sit there for an hour. Then you go to dinner. You stay. Level 3. The newly ordained priest. They lay hands on you and something shifts. You can't explain it. You've tried. Your mother is in the front row, and she is crying in the specific way that mothers cry when something is both wonderful and final. They assign you to a parish in a town you've never heard of. 300 families, a school attached, a roof that leaks over the sacristy when it rains hard enough. Your first confession terrifies you more than it terrifies the person on the other side of the screen. You sit in the dark and listen and say the words and give the penance and pronounce the absolution. And afterward, you sit in the empty church for a long time, thinking about the weight of what just happened. People bring you things, casseroles, fruitcake at Christmas that nobody wants but everyone keeps giving. You eat all of it because it would be rude not to, and also because the rectory kitchen is basically a microwave and good intentions. You visit the sick. You bury the dead. You baptize the babies who scream through the whole thing and whose parents mouth sorry at you from the front row. You are 26 years old and people call you father and look at you like you have answers. You are working on it. Level 4. The parish priest. 15 years in the same town. You know where everyone hides their pain. You know which marriages are real and which ones are performances. You know whose son is struggling and whose mother is drinking again, and whose business is not as successful as the Christmas card makes it look. They tell you everything in that confessional. Everything. You carry it all, and you are not allowed to put it down. You say the same Mass you have said 1,000 times, and you try to mean it every time. Most days you do. Some days the words come out of your mouth, while your brain is somewhere else entirely, thinking about the boiler that needs replacing, or the volunteer who sent you a passive-aggressive email about the flower rota. The flower rota has caused more conflict in this parish than anything in the Gospels. You are 41 years old, and you haven't taken a real holiday since 2019, and nobody has asked how you are in longer than you can remember. Not really asked. Not the kind of asking that wants a real answer. You are the person everyone comes to. There is no equivalent person that you can go to. This is the part they didn't cover in seminary. You pray. It helps. Not always in the way you expect, but it helps. Level 5. The Bishop. The letter arrives from Rome, and your hands are shaking by the second paragraph. They are appointing you bishop of a diocese with 400,000 Catholics, 83 parishes, and a regional Catholic school system that is currently the subject of a financial audit. Nobody mentions the audit in the appointment letter. You find out about the audit on your third day. Being a bishop means you are no longer a pastor. You are a manager. You have a chancellor. You have a vicar general. You have a communications director whose entire job is to make sure the things you say in public don't become the things that end careers. You miss the parish. You miss knowing people's names. Here, you know departments. A priest in one of your parishes is accused of something. You cannot discuss the details. Your lawyer and your chancellor and a very serious woman from the diocesan safeguarding office sit in a room with you and walk you through the process. The process is correct. The process is also cold in a way that makes you feel complicit in the coldness. You issue a statement. The statement is accurate and says nothing. You lie awake that night and talk to God in the way you've been talking to God since you were 9 years old, and the answer is the same it has always been. Not a voice, not a sign, just the specific quality of silence that you've learned over decades to trust. Level 6. The Cardinal. The Pope calls you himself. That's not how it usually works. You are sitting in your office and your secretary puts the call through and says simply, "Rome," and you know. They give you the red hat at a consistory in St. Peter's Square. 50,000 people, cameras. A moment so large your brain can't hold it. The red is symbolic. It means you are willing to shed blood for the faith. Everyone in the room is wearing it. Most of them look comfortable. You are working on comfortable. You are inside the curia now, the actual machinery of the church, the committees and the congregations and the councils and the politics that have been running since before your country existed. You learn things about the institution that the institution has never advertised. Not scandals. You already knew about the scandals. The whole world knows about the scandals now. Something quieter than scandal. The gap between what the church says it is and what it actually is, measured in the currency of power and property and influence, and the particular way that very old institutions protect themselves above almost everything else. You still believe. That is not the complicated part. The complicated part is believing inside a building this large, with this much history, and this many locked rooms. Level 7. The Conclave. You file into the Sistine Chapel with 132 other cardinals, and the doors are locked behind you, and you will not leave until there is a new pope. They take your phone at the door. You haven't been without your phone since 2009, and your pocket feels wrong. Above you, Michelangelo's ceiling. Around you, the men who will decide the future of 1.3 billion people. You vote 4 times a day, paper ballots. You write a name in your best handwriting and fold the paper and walk to the altar and place it in the chalice and say, in Latin, "I call as my witness Christ the Lord, who will be my judge, that my vote is given to the one who before God I think should be elected." The smoke rises black, black, black. On the third day, the smoke rises white. You watch a man you know, a man you have eaten with, argued with, disagreed with in committee meetings about matters that seemed important at the time, walk out onto the loggia of St. Peter's Basilica and become something else entirely. The crowd below erupts. You stand in the chapel and feel the full weight of what just happened and what you were part of and what it means. Then someone hands you a glass of water and asks if you'd like lunch. Level 8. The Pope. You did not expect it to be you. Nobody expects it to be them until it is. They ask you on the third ballot, and by the fourth, it is done, and they lead you to a small room behind the chapel called the Room of Tears, and you understand immediately why it has that name. You put on the white cassock and walk out to the loggia and look at the square below, and there are 100,000 people, and they are all looking at you, and something inside you goes very quiet. Not peaceful. Quiet. The way a room goes quiet before something begins. You are the Bishop of Rome, the Vicar of Christ, the successor of St. Peter, the head of a sovereign state and a global institution that has survived the fall of every empire that ever tried to destroy it. You have an apartment in the Apostolic Palace, and a private chapel, and a staff of hundreds, and a schedule planned 6 months in advance. And you are the loneliest you have ever been. You say Mass every morning alone, before anyone else is awake. You pray the same prayer you have been praying since you were 9 years old in a cold church at 6:15 in the morning with a holy card in your pocket and a grandmother in the third row who smiled at you like you hung the moon. The words are the same. You are different. The world is different. Something remains constant. You have staked everything on that something. Somewhere, right now, a boy is putting on a white robe in the dark. His mother ironed it the night before. He is walking to a church 3 blocks away. He doesn't know what's waiting for him at the end of the road he's about to start. Neither did you. The cycle continues.